Hi everyone, welcome to the first day of History in the Making, a hangathon, 10 days, pure content, taking you all the way from copywriting to traffic to persuasion to marketing with the awesome Jon Benson. Hey Jon.
Hey, Yifat, how are you? How's
I'm
everybody?
on.
Welcome everybody. Hey, it's fantastic to be here on a new platform. I mean, I've done a lot of things online, as you probably know, but I have never done a Google Hangout, so this is all going to be new for us. So if you notice camera shaking, it's because it's on a desk, or if you notice me falling over backwards, it's because I'm drunk. I'm not drunk. I'm kidding. Yifat's going to push me over. She's actually sitting right next to me. It doesn't look like it, but no, she is. She's teasing me as we speak. So this is going to
So,
be great. A lot of content to cover, and then a lot of your questions. So, Yifat, I'll give it back to you.
definitely. So let's do a few housekeeping rules. The Hangout is actually set for you to engage with us, not only in the comment, but also in the Hangout. Below this video, there is a button that says Join the Hangout. Right now, the Hangout is full, but as people ask questions and engage with us, they're going to drop off after they get the answer, and then you guys can come in. So if you want to engage with Jon face-to-face, which is nobody has ever done that, so proud of you, Jon. If you have any questions for this awesome copywriter, this is your time to ask it. We are talking today about how to find your sales hook, which is very, very important part of the copywriting process. And then we're just going to take your questions. So type them in, comment away, and there's a few surprises and gifts for you at the end of the Hangout, so stick with us. So, Jon, for all those who don't really know your story and haven't heard of you yet, surprisingly so, let's just get started with a little bit of an introduction and like your rags to riches story.
Okay, so I started 11 years ago online, and I started in the I'm still in the fitness industry, but I started in the fitness industry alone. I never had any aspirations to be a copywriter or even an internet marketer. I just wanted to write a book on fitness. I was turning 40, and at the time I was in the best shape of my life, and I'd come off of being obese for years and sick and had a heart attack and crazy health issues, and I thought, well, this would make a good book, but I didn't want to just make it all about me, so I interviewed 52 people from 40 to 80 and wrote a book called Fit Over 40, and thought it was a pretty clever title, and never really sought out I didn't know where it was going to go, but I teamed up with a guy named Tom Venuto who heard about me through just the blog. I was doing a blog at the time, and it wasn't called blogs back then. It was just me updating HTML pages every day. And he read an article and said, hey, I like this article. And I had no idea what an internet marketer was, what ebook publishing was, nothing, total clueless. And we hooked up in New York where I was living, and next thing you know, I have a book deal. And he said, I'll take 50% if I'll write the sales copy, and I'll do the marketing, and you just provide the content. I thought, yeah, it's 50% of, a lot, hopefully, is better than 0 of 0. And I had no idea at the time, no clue what kind of volume that they were talking about, in money-wise. I had my own design firm at the time. I was a graphic designer, and I'd spent 14 years building this firm since I was right out of college. And I'm like, and Tom's going, you're going to quit your job the first day. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to quit my job, man. I drive a Porsche. I'm success. I had an idea of success that was a 6-figure income, and that is successful. Don't get me wrong. Don't think of me as an arrogant ass for saying that. But that was my idea. That was like the pinnacle of $100,000 a year. Wow, I'm doing pretty good. And the company almost made $1 million. So it was a small firm, but it was like $900,000 was the best year we ever had, and a lot of that was media buys, which we don't get. But anyway, I thought it was, hey, this is good for a kid out of college. It's all right, And there's no way I'm going to walk away from this. And the second day I walked away from it, I literally just gave the company to my VP and just said, take it. I didn't even sell it. So I just knew that this is what I want to do. I had no idea it was possible. And what made those sales possible, what jettisoned me from nowhere, absolutely nowhere, to being 1007 on Alexa. Alexa is a website that gauges the most popular websites in the world. So I was the 1000th, it's hard to say, 1007th most popular website in the world for a series of days. I was like, wow, that's just intense, because there's like literally a billion websites, right? And so I was like, wow, this is really, really something, and I've got to tap into this, man. This is just awesome, and I can actually express myself and help people change their lives. And that one book just literally helped hundreds of thousands of people change their bodies, their lives. And some of them would say, literally saved their life. Some of them would say, it saved their marriage and things like that. So I was getting this really amazing feedback. And that was all fine and dandy, but you gave up 50% of your profits, and was worth it to get started. But my second book, which I thought was going to be even bigger because it was more broad, called Every Other Day Diet. You may have heard of that, because that was the very first book to have a video sales letter. I decided I would try to write the copy, because after all, I was a writer. Hey, I can write this stuff. Well, no, it didn't work at all. I wrote the copy and it was like, ugh, just completely bombed. I mean, it was just, it didn't work at all. And it was, I mean, once it didn't work at all, I had a big list thanks to the first sales copy that was so awesome, and the guy that could set up the marketing and stuff, but just didn't have a bite to it. And so I was sitting around one day, and I decided, I hadn't shaved, and I decided I would instead of doing a YouTube video, I would do a text on the page video and just talk about stuff. And my conversions went up 600% just from that one little video. It wasn't a lot of people. It was like, it went from like 5 people buying the book to 30 people buying the book, something like that. But it was around 600. Yeah. So I'm like, wow, okay, this is something to think about, right? So I decided, what if you was to elongate this and actually create a sales page? So I took my sales copy that I'd already written, and as I was typing it into the PowerPoint slides, I was thinking, wait, now that I break it into slides like this, I'm seeing every little paragraph in every section. I'm going, oh, wait, that doesn't sound good. And that's very difficult to do when you're looking at a sheet of paper. I just tell you. So I'm typing it in there going, okay, I think I'll change this, and think I'll change this, and you know what, I'll just try something like this. And threw this up, and it was insane. I mean, within 30 days, I had people spending $1 million a month on traffic that I never had to spend a dime. And this propelled me to the very top of ClickBank and the internet and all that stuff, and really cemented the legacy of the video sales letter, because at the time it was and it still is, one of the ugliest things people will ever see that works better than anything I've ever tried to sell medium to low dollar products. Like, we're talking about anything under $200. And even I'd say I sell $500 things with it, so no problem there either. So very powerful tool, very, very powerful tool that was created quite by accident. It wasn't, I'd like to think I'm a marketing genius, but I mean, there was some cool stuff in there that I did from my psychology courses, and I still teach a lot of psychology in my writing and NLP and things like that, but it was really quite accidental. And then about a week later, I had my buddy Mike Geary, who he had the top website in the world on fitness at the time. He said, hey, could you write one of those things for me? I'll pay you 25 grand. I thought, wow, I can write that like in a day. I mean, now I've got this, like, I think, so, because I'll just do the same thing I did for me, and I wrote it literally in a day and gave it to him, and that control is still up, and I'm kicking myself now because I had no idea how copywriters do things. Like, I didn't get a percentage or anything like that, but that's made about $80 million since the time.
Wow.
Something to that effect. So then the language company Pimsleur got in touch with me, and I wrote the first Pimsleur control, which put them ahead of Rosetta Stone, and so onward it went. And it just, next thing you know, I got a reputation for being a copywriter. And so I want to impart this to you guys today. What's going to be different about this hangout, and the questions I'm going to be taking, is a lot of copywriters have no clue how to produce a product. They have no clue how to start from scratch with nothing, create a product, put it online, market it. Marketing and copywriting, two different things. Let's make that really clear. Marketing involves copywriting, but copywriting does not necessarily involve marketing. So, two different things. And I just happened to get one skill set down fairly well, which is I created 7 products in the fitness industry and multiple products after that. And then the other one, with copywriting, I literally stumbled into it, and if it wouldn't have been for the video sales letter template, I never would have been a copywriter. I never would have figured out the formulas that work. And so this went on for about a year, and then Google slapped all the fitness guys. Acai Berry and all the other crap that doesn't work was all over Google at the time, and they decided to shut down everybody, including the legit guys like me and Mike Geary and Vince Del Monte and a lot of other guys that were doing really good stuff out there. And during that time, Mike decided to go fight and get traffic outside of Google, because that's where his primary source of revenue was coming from. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to dive into this video sales letter thing. I'm going to put the fitness stuff on the side and come back to it, because I can always do that. And let's see if there's something here. Let's see if it's got teeth. And I taught the formula to Ryan Dice, and he ended up making a product, not knowing that I wanted to do that. And so that was a big payday thing. But that just really blew it open. Agora Publishing, and then a lot of the big publishers started catching on to it. And now It's an $11 billion industry. So that's how that happened. And you know, a lot of people, they talk about who's the greatest copywriter. I'm usually on that list with some people, which is very flattering because I don't think of myself that way. John Carlton, who is one of the greatest copywriters in the world, slaps me upside the head when I say that because he doesn't agree. But I see what they're doing, and I see what we're doing inside Video Sales Letters. And I will say this, I'm certainly one of the most successful ones, because not from just my success, but from helping you guys. So my customers have earned over $1 billion. So that's a B, that's not an M, going through the tutorial courses that I put together, that was originally called 3X VSL, but it's now called Accelerator. And that is the techniques that I use to teach people how to write video sales letters. I actually give you copy, a lot of copy that you can finagle for yourself, and teach you the systems that I use to break this down. Because I'll be honest with you, without systems, most people will never be able to write. And so I want to kick into this by saying, you know, yes, it's a kind of a rags to riches story. I wasn't in rags, you know. I had a decent income and all that stuff, and I am an entrepreneur, and I built a pretty decent business. But we now live, you know, on the bluffs of Malibu. I'm looking at the Pacific Ocean right now, and you know, living our dream. It's a fantastic dream to live, and I'm just here to tell you it's completely possible for anyone to do this, and I'm very thankful that I get to be one of the guys that's got a legitimate, you know, just, you know, Google me, and my reputation's stellar, because we really do care, really do actually love our customers, and actually love the products that we produce, to really know that they work. And so you're going to hear a lot of that kind of passion coming out over the next 10 days, and you're going to hear a lot of content as well. So you'll hear some of the formulaic stuff that I use, like go do this first, then do this, then do this. In the last 5 days, you'll get all 5 steps of that VSL formula. I'm just going to give it to you. So you can take it from there and do whatever you want to do with it. So that's how I got started and ended up here, and next thing you know, I'm speaking all over the world, and I'm speaking at Traffic and Conversions in just a couple of weeks. If you're coming down to Ryan Dice's event, I'll be one of the featured speakers there, and I usually speak at Evan's events, Evan Pagan, if you don't know who that is.
Yep.
So that's who I am. That's how I got started.
So Jon, so first of all, this is amazing, because I know before I started with Google Plus, and when I used to go through all these courses, I would think, you know, yeah, but who's going to listen to me? And what you're showing is really a system of how to get there. And guys, if you're thinking this, then just so you know, we're going to get in day 3 into the traffic and all that stuff. But today we're going to talk about the hook. How do you get your sales hook? And before we get there, I just want to share with you, Jon, a few of the things that people are saying already in the comments. Jeffrey is saying that you're modest and intelligent, which is really great. Kristen is saying that you were talking about the ugliest thing that you ever wrote, and she says, haha, don't tell that to Ryan Dice. So Kristen, Ryan Dice is using Jon's software, which is really great. There are more comments coming in. Julie is asking, Julie, welcome. You're asking, your Hangout is full, how do you get in? We're going to rotate. As soon as we get to the questions and answers, the people in the Hangout are going to ask their question, going to drop off, and you can come in. So until that happens, just watch us right here on the YouTube, and tomorrow, come here 10 minutes earlier, and you might be the first one in the film strip. And I just want to recognize a few of the people that are watching us right now. Benedict Howard, welcome. Eric Scott, welcome. Dr. Frank Welling. Paladin Webb, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Misa, really, there's really great content and questions here. So we're going to get to them, but first, let's dive into the topic of today. How do you find your sales hook? So, Jon, you, before you get into that, I want to say that you did not take any specific training to become a copywriter, right? And actually, I heard you say that you were so successful with your system, you didn't want to read any books that will mess you up. So let's talk about that a little bit.
This is one of the hardest things to. This will tell you, if anything, that I'm being completely brutally honest with you when I say I did not study anybody's copywriting courses when I wrote 3X, and when I came up with Accelerator, and when I wrote all the VSLs that did well. That's not to say I'm some sort of copy genius or that I was arrogant, that I didn't think that I needed to learn from these guys. I literally didn't want to be influenced. I knew that the style of that video sales letter, the style of my writing was different because I'd never been exposed to it, and it was working. So I thought if it wasn't working, I would have dove into a million guys, you know. And now I have, of course, because it's like I'm friends with a lot of those guys, but I didn't at first. So if what you're writing right now is working, and it's killing it on sales, great. Then maybe listen to me and take a few tips. But most people, the vast majority, it's not working. And in fact, most people believe that they can't write. And So let me just start here before we get into the sales hook, and hopefully people have got that PDF that we put up for the follow along with me and fill in the blanks thing.
No, I can put it up. I actually wanted to do that as a gift at the end, but if you want, we can
Oh,
share
okay.
it right now.
Okay. Well, then grab a sheet of paper. We're going to give you a gift at the end. Huh, didn't know that.
I'll put it up and people can
All right.
grab it. So,
All right.
yeah, let's do it.
So let me just say this. I sent Yifat an email that I just got today. So this isn't like something that, oh, I've been preparing this for weeks. This stuff comes to me every single day. A guy named Drayton Bird sent this to me, one of the great legendary copywriting admin. He's 76 years old. And David Ogilvy, I don't know if you guys know who that is. Just say yes in the chat if you do or no. One of the greatest admin in history. Definitely one of the greatest copywriters in the history of copywriting back in the 50s. If you've ever watched the series Mad Men, and Don Draper and those characters, they reference Ogilvy all the time, and it's the writer's inside joke because Ogilvy was the genius of the day. Well, Ogilvy said this: unless you can write, you can never persuade. That's it. And so that's why the Forbes magazine article, if you've got my free download, it said that the most important that success on the internet is based on one thing: can you copyright? And so that scares the crap out of a lot of people because they're like, well, I'm not a copywriter. A copywriter is a very, very specific skill set, and it's not something most people are going to stumble into and go, oh, wow, I figured it out. Most people will have to have a tutor. Most people have to have a teacher, a course, whatever it may be, or multiple courses, I believe in. For most people, I got really fortunate because it was a very new industry. It's a self-created industry, video sales letters. And since then, I've expanded, obviously, on that. I've written a lot of sales pages and direct things like that, but most people need some help with that. Well, here's something I want you to take the burden off your shoulders. You don't need to be a copywriter at all. What you need to do is just learn a few of the skills that we do, how we ethically persuade people to take action, and apply that to your writing. And if you want to go further, sure, I've got courses that help you do that, but the courses aren't designed to help you become a copywriter. I've actually got a course that certifies copywriters that's completely distinct from the big course that everyone knows about, Accelerator. That's for business owners. That's for business owners that don't want to be copywriters, that just want to take copy that's already been pre-established and the formulas that's already been pre-worked out that we know works because it's worked for $1 billion worth of sales, and just implement their own text without having to be too uberly creative. That's awesome. That's really what I want to be good at. I want to be good at teaching guys how to do that. And sure, they pick up all kinds of they create their own little ninja tricks here and there, and it just expands like a wiki, right? But this all starts with the premise that you have to really know that copywriting and writing is the most essential thing you can do to success online. I mean, I hate to say this, but there are millions upon millions of products out there in the product graveyard that are fantastic products. They just will never see the light of day. Just like my Every Other Day Diet book would have never seen the light of day if it would not have been for killer copy. In this case, it was a video sales letter, and the copy I wrote just happened to be really good off the bat, which is very rare to do that, but that's what happened. So it is essential that you get the skill set down, but you don't have to be a copywriter. So I kind of liken it to this. How many of you guys exercise? Just say yes or whatever you do in the chat. Raise your hand. Yeah, I'd say raise your hand if you run and go to webinar. But if you exercise at all, do you believe that you have to be an Olympic athlete? Of course not, right? It's like I don't have to be an Olympic athlete to go to the gym, right? I'm very much into exercise. I'm not going to be an Olympic athlete anytime soon. Well, it's the same thing. I'm not asking you to be a copywriter, which is the equivalent of an Olympic athlete of writing. I'm asking you just to take on some of the exercise strategies that we use. We cool with that? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's dive into what the sales hook is all about. First of all, what is a sales hook? That's the first question. A hook, you hear the word hook a lot, and a lot of people don't know what I mean when I say hook. A hook is distinctly different than a headline, although a headline can have a hook in it. A hook is a catchy phrase, a turn of words, or something that embeds an idea, a picture in the customer's mind of what your product delivers. And it's usually so indelible, it's something they cannot forget, that the hook alone can actually sell the product. And I'll give you some ideas, give you some great hooks here. For example, The End of America. Porter Stansberry VSL, that we coached the Stansberry group to write this, that does $100 million a year. I know that sounds staggering, but it's an ugly video sales letter. And when I say ugly, what that means is just text and no graphics, hardly any graphics at all, nothing pretty at all, and a guy speaking over it. That's all it is. And it's hypnotic. That's the reason why it does so well. And that's the reason why all video sales letters, I think, do so well. But it's a $100 million a year project. And it's staggering that they've got that from just an ugly video sales letter to most people, but that's just essentially what it is. But the end of America, that is a powerful hook. Draws you in to say, wow, especially for people that they're scared of the current administration, they're certainly scared of the current economic situation, especially in 2008, 2009, 2010, that was a huge thing, right? So a lot of survivalists, a lot of that kind of market are just gravitate toward that. So a hook is something that captures the interest of a desired party. You have to know your audience. Know what is going through their mind. When they wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that they worry about? That's it. So let me give you an example of a non-hook, because it's easier to, like, a lady came over to me, a really nice lady, ironically, Olympic athlete. She was an Olympic swimmer, and came over and she said, I want to write a book. I've got this book. I want to write a book on my experiences as an Olympic swimmer. I said, okay, well, that would be a targeted, very highly targeted audience, but what's the name of the book? She said, Climbing the Mountain. I was like, you're not a mountain climber, you're a freaking swimmer. It's like, what does that have to do with it? I was, no. So it's like there was not only was there no hook in there, there was an antithesis of a hook. If I told you that's the name of my book, would you have a clue what I was talking about? On the other hand, when I tell you the name of my book is The Every Other Day Diet or Fit Over 40, is there anyone out there that doesn't know immediately what the gist of the book is? Oh, that's for fitness over 40. Oh, you diet every other day. It's so simple when you think about it, but most people don't think that way. They think of they're trying to be too clever, or they're trying to be too witty, and that's something that can actually backfire against you. So a sales hook is something that can be very simple, but it just sticks in your head. One of my famous sales hooks is the fat-burning switch. So when people talk about turning on and off your fat-burning switch, the fat-burning switch is a hook. And when I go in the copy, I say, well, it's like a switch, the way a light switch works on a wall inside your body. It's just a genetic switch, and you can turn that off and on. And I explain in very simplistic terms what that means. Fat-burning switch, very good hook. And that's basically what you're going to want to concentrate on right off the bat. Try to get a hook for your product. It may not be the best hook. You may have to go through 10 or 20 different iterations of that. But as you can see, fat-burning switch works great into a headline. End of America works great into a headline. And a lot of people concentrate on headlines before they concentrate on hooks. I suggest you concentrate on finding your sales hook, because I'm not kidding when I tell you this. Your hook can literally be the difference between making no money online and making millions online. A great hook can pull millions. Now, let me ask you, you probably want to know, well, how do I do this? What's the steps I need to do to create a hook, other than just, okay, I got that. Don't be too clever and think about that kind of, think about what the audience thinks about when they wake up in the morning. I love that tip, by the way. You should write that down. That should be your number one thing that you think about when it comes to your marketing. Is this a question my prospect would ask themselves or say to themselves when they wake up in the morning? I'm going to elaborate on that one second, Yifat, before I go into I'm going to give you 3 steps that you can use to create your hook, and it's really going to help you a lot. But before I go into that, by the way, that's called an open loop. I just opened the loop. I'll get to that tomorrow when we start talking more about that. But before I get to that, I do want to say that the question that I suggested that you ask yourself, is this something that my customer would be asking themselves when they wake up in the morning, is probably the best question I've ever heard posed to figuring out how I should write a book, what it should be about, how it should be marketed, and even what the hook should be, what the headline should be. Is this something they're thinking about? So, for example, in the weight loss industry, a buddy of mine owns a company called The Future of Health Now. That's the name of the future. That's the name of his company, The Future of Health Now. That's the name of it. And he's just brilliant. This guy's really, really awesome. Fantastic content. But I've challenged him, and I said, does anyone wake up in the morning and think to themselves over breakfast, and they're eating breakfast, and they're 30 pounds overweight, they kind of had to heave and hoe getting down the stairs, and they're aching, and they're eating God, and they're thinking, I wonder what the future of health is today. No. No one asks that question. I mean, very few people ask that question. What they're asking is, wow, am I always going to be stuck at this ridiculously heavy weight, or is there what can I do to lose this weight? That's the questions they're asking. It's very simple. But if you don't ask and target to your audience and ask them what the question they're asked, that's actually step 1, then you'll never know. You're just going to be guessing. So I want to take the guesswork out of copywriting, and then later, as you'll see in the coming days, we're not just going to take the guesswork out. We're going to actually take the thinking a lot out of it too, because if you get too caught up in the head when you're writing copy, you'll drift off into nowhere. So let's talk about this. 3 steps I want to give you. That was 4. 3. 3 steps I want to give you. Here's what I would like you to do. You can do this to a Facebook group. So when people say, I don't have a list, you don't need one. Just have a Facebook fan page, or excuse me, a Facebook group, or a Facebook page, excuse me, not a group. Just your own Facebook.
Let me just say that it can be also a Google Plus page, or
Sure.
a Twitter, or a LinkedIn, any of those sites.
Any social media that's got more than 10 people on it, okay? And if you don't have that, go to your local church, go to your local whatever you do participate in, sit down, get 15 people in front of you and say, I want to ask you 3 questions. That's how easy this exercise is. If you will ask these 3 questions, and of course the bigger the sample group, the better. But here are the 3 questions. What is your most pressing issue concerning blank? And whatever that goes in that blank is what you do, or what you want to write about, or what your product does, what your product solves. So for my case, it might be, what is your most pressing issue when it comes to marketing? What is your most pressing issue when it comes to writing compelling copy? What is your most pressing issue when it comes to losing weight? What is that most pressing thing on your mind right now? And they will tell you what's on their mind right now. The most pressing thing is a phrase that will make people go into their brain and think, wait, what's the most pressing thing? And if you don't think they give it to you, like they go, oh, I don't know, like, I don't know, I don't have enough time. No, that's not the most pressing thing. Come on, what's the one thing that you worry the most about when it comes to copywriting? That's another way of phrasing that question. What's the one thing you worry the most about when it comes to your online business success? That's the question you want to answer. Why try to answer that for yourself when you've got a host of people who will answer it for you, and those are the people that will buy your products? Isn't that cool? Very simple, right? This is all going to be very simple stuff, but it's stuff that most people don't think about. So number 2, and by the way, I just want to say I owe my wife Andrea. Andrea, thank you very much. She's the genius that came up with this little 3-step formula that I use, and she's a marketing little minxie. I love her to death, and she learned this from Eben Pagan, and I don't know who Eben learned it from, but it's really great stuff. Number 2 is, what is your greatest fear about blank? So in my case, I say, what are you the most afraid of when it comes to wanting to lose weight? That's a great question, man. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. This is another thing I said in that free report that I gave you. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions, and the quality of your sales is equally determined by the quality of your questions. So that question is great. What are the most, and you can phrase this any way you want. What are you the most afraid of when it comes to losing weight? You'll get answers like, I don't know what to do next. I'm afraid of the responsibility it will take to keep the weight off. Those kind of questions. What you can ask this question. I would love to know this in the chat. What's your most pressing fear right now? The greatest fear that you have when it comes to marketing yourself online? When it comes to creating a sales page to actually sell something online? What's your greatest fear? Is it that I don't have a product? I don't know what to say? I'm afraid that I will fail? What's your greatest fear? You want to know the mindset. And remember, this is what people are thinking when they wake up in the morning. When they start thinking about, when you think about sales copy, and let me break that down even further. When you think about having a sales page that sells a product that you've created or a service that you've created, and you want that to sell over and over again while you sleep, and it's not happening yet, what's your greatest fear around that? Is it that you'll keep your day job? You'll have to get another job maybe? What's your greatest fear? And the third question, that's the number, your third question is, what's your biggest dream concerning this? What's the dream? What would you love to see happen? I'd love to just be able to wake up in the morning and know that my kids are taken care of financially. I'd love to know that I could just take my wife or my husband on a vacation and drop of the hat. Whatever the dream is. What is the dream? So those 3 questions will give you so much information, it will blow your mind with what you can do with this. So why guess?
Sorry, hold on a second. John King muted you, so unmute again. And John King, don't do that again. So unmute yourself. John, you're muted. John, hold on. You are muted. Hold on. Unmute yourself. Someone muted you.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, John, don't do that again. I don't know. How do you do that? I don't know. Is he superpowers?
Yeah, no, some people
My,
can do.
my kryptonite. Hopefully what I'm saying. How many people are getting a lot out of what I'm saying? Can we just take a little poll here before we go to step 2 and step 3?
Totally getting it. I love it. And actually what I really love about that, Jon, is that like you said, you're taking the guesswork out of it because you're going and asking real people what the challenges are. You don't have to sit there and kind of like, okay, well, would that be a problem or this is a problem? You're engaging people in the creation of your product, which people support what they help create. So this is an awesome job.
Great. So I want to know what everybody else is thinking. If there's a live chat or whatever,
Exactly.
just
So,
let me know. Come
okay,
on.
let me read some of the comments.
Good.
And so Paladin is saying, what is the most pressing issue concerning marketing, copywriting, losing weight? October Marketing is saying, when the method is headline, sales letter, VSL. You mentioned in another of your videos that if it's good, the traffic will come. Okay, so that's a future question. And okay, guys are jumping into. So guys, when you're watching this, put your questions relating to the hook right now. We're going to get to all the other ones. We have 10 days to cover everything you want. And in about 5 minutes, we're going to dive into the Q&A of everyone in the Hangout, and we'll rotate. So let's go into that, Jon.
Maybe 10 minutes. Okay.
10 minutes.
Step number 2. Let's get into step number 2, okay? Please write this down. Step number 2 is what I call the 4 quadrants of desire. What you want to do is understand, if you can take all that information and you want to put it into 4 little categories. And the 4 quadrants are wants, fears, pleasures, and needs. Here's what's cool. All 4 of those quadrants cover every reason why anyone's ever bought anything in their in the history of humanity. It's either a want, which most cases it is a want. It's a need, which means I need to have something in order to survive. There are very few needs, though. That's what you want to understand. Underneath every need, there's a really luscious want. For example, if I don't have a car and my work is across town, I do need a car and there's no bus. Okay, you're right, I do need a car. But I want a hybrid Lexus green car with tan interior or whatever. So you see, there's a big difference there. All the juice is in what they want. And then underneath that is the pleasures and the fears. And you've already got them. They've already told you what they are. So as you're going to see, because I'm going to show you a mind map of this in a moment, I'm going to show you, it's called the simple hook formula. I came up with it for you guys. So I reverse engineered my hooks and said, hey, I can teach this in a simple way. There's a more complex version of it, but this is the simple one, and it really works great. How you can plug this stuff in and go, wow, I just created a hook without even really having to think that much about it. Okay, so I'll show you that in just a minute. So that's step 2. Put it into the 4 quadrants of desire. If you've never heard that term, it's because it's mine. That was my patented term. But that is really I do a whole webinar on the 4 quadrants of desire. Very, very powerful stuff. And then step number 3 is what I'm going to show you now. Step number 3 is to put that information into a mind map. It's called the simple hook formula. And when you do that, these questions start to fall into place. So what I did is I surveyed my list on a general weight loss book. And I came up with, by the way, this is how I came up with a couple of these hooks, like, for example, the fat burning switch, the skinny jean, those kind of things. So I'll show you exactly how I went through the process of thinking. And when you see it, you'll see, wow, I think you'll see, yeah, that makes total sense. So I'm going to share my screen. Yifat, is that cool?
Go for it.
Everybody cool? So let's see if I can do that.
Go for it. I know everybody's really, really excited about doing that.
Okay, everyone see this cool? Everybody see this?
Yep, there we go. Awesome.
Awesome. So as you see, we've got wants, fears, and pleasures. Why do we not have needs? Because for a hook, you don't need to worry about what they need, only about what they want. The needs are important to know. Okay, so I've got an arrow that says Leela Markin Open Capture Smile, Open Capture.
Leela, you can download that. Okay, so everyone, you can download this PDF right on the website. There's a little button that says Download Day 1 Workshop, so you don't have to wonder how to capture the screen or anything like that. You have the document to download. Go for it.
Great. So don't worry about wants, needs rather. It's good that you have them. It's good that you know what they are, but for this exercise, we just got rid of them. So now you only have 3 things to worry about: wants, fears, and pleasures. Now, here's what I did. I found out what the fears and pleasures are right here, only by asking questions. I just said, what are your, and so I took the top answers. Their fears are that their body is going to run down, that they feel run down, that they lost attraction to their spouse, that they're uncomfortable in their clothes or uncomfortable in their body. Their body feels like a prison. Those are things that were said over and over and over again. And here's what I do from there. I ask one simple question. What else is run down? What else is not attractive? What else is uncomfortable? And it can be, you can get really crazy with this. It doesn't have to be anything like it doesn't have to be too specific to weight loss. For example, what else is run down? A battery runs down, a clock runs down, roadkill gets run down, okay? Light bulbs get run down, and I bolded the one that I thought, okay, I'm going to use this one. Now, I could have used any one of them, okay? So then I ask one more question. A light bulb is related to what? Now, you could put down 5, 6, 7 words. Alice, please stop talking. Please, 6, 7, 8, 10 words, whatever that may be. But I put down one for this, the purpose of this exercise, and that one is switch. Light bulbs are turned on by a switch. Now, this may sound esoteric, but it won't sound esoteric in just a few minutes. Run down. What else is run down? I got the light bulb. What is a light bulb related to? Switch. Isn't that simple? So simple. No attraction. What else reminds me of not being attracted? Well, ugly or mean people. War is unattractive to me. War is very unattractive. So I selected that one because war sounds so like ridiculously away from losing weight, right? Right? Well, what's related to that? Well, battle, combat. I chose combat. And then uncomfortable. What else is uncomfortable? Strangers for some people. Tight clothes. So I just used one of the ones that people thought that they feel their clothes are restrictive. Well, what else reminds me of tight clothes? What's related to it? Straight jacket. So I just came up with that's what popped into my mind. So I just wrote down straight jacket. Now I want you to know this, and guys, hold on one second. Okay, thank you. So I want you to know this. You don't have to use every one of these. And I would prefer that you come up with 5 or 6 different words for each thing. I'm just showing you the formula in its simple way, because we don't have time to go over 6 different variations of that. So we did the same thing with pleasures, except we changed the question. Pleasures were flat tummy, more energy, and I want to feel more sexy. That sounds about right, doesn't it? Well, one word option. So whenever these sentences come in, it's like, I really loved it. I want to have a flat tummy for the first time in my life. I want to look in the mirror and I want to see my stomach flat. So those were the kind of like a lot of questions coming over. That's going to give me a lot of pleasure. So I decided to take this and make an exercise. What is a one-word option to describe flat tummy? One word. Skinny, fat burning, which is technically 2 words, but it's hyphenated, so it counts. Trim. Makes sense, right? Just one simple word. That's all I want you to do. What's one word for more energy? Power, zest, vital. One word for sexy, hot, beautiful, fun. These are words I came up with. You can come up with your own words. You can go to thesaurus.com and come up with words, synonyms for these things. It's really that simple. Then finally, and this is the very easy part for me, what does your customer want? From the information that you've been given up here, what do you think that they want? Now, you can determine what they want by asking them, but what I found is most people don't really know what they want. They only know what they need, okay? So what I've done is I've taken the need of losing weight, being healthy, etc., and I've just done a little research into human psychology. And this is not some deep dive into human psychology. This is pretty much common sense. What do they want when it comes down to this? And some of these, by the way, I took from the survey. Like some said, I don't feel like my husband respects me anymore. So one of those wants is respect from others. That's one of our wants when we want to get in shape. We want respect. We want accolades from other people. Several people said they want to live longer without disease. That was actually some of the pleasures, but that's actually more of a want. I want to live longer without disease. Now, this one came up over and over again. The pleasures, but it really wasn't a pleasure, it was a want. People said, I want to feel or look 10 years younger. And the phrase 10 years younger came up more than once. It's just a lot of people wanting to feel 10 years younger. So that's the data that I got from surveying a very small portion of my list. Now, look what I was able to do with that. Remember that hook I told you about, the fat burning switch? Well, there's another version of that hook called the skinny switch, which I like even better. Now, I could have used the fat burning switch from this very file right here, but look where I got that. The only word I had to think of is the word the. Okay? Because look, skinny's right here. You see it right here?
Yep.
Switch is right here, and I put the in front of it. And that ended up being like one of the biggest hooks that we've ever done, the skinny switch. I mean, think about it. This is targeted toward ladies. Ladies, wouldn't you love to flip a skinny switch on?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, damn good hook, right?
I want to wake up skinny in the morning.
Yeah, I realize I just some of this is like pulling up your sleeves and showing that there are tricks. You know, you're pulling back the curtain and showing the wizard here, right? I'm not afraid to do this because most people, in fact, I've never seen another copywriter break their own stuff down to say, here's how I came up with that. And that's what I've done in all the stuff that I teach. So look at this one. So fat combat actually became combat the fat.
Okay, so hold on a second. Unmute yourself again. Timothy, guys, stop clicking on stuff.
Yeah, if you can just disengage that, that would be great. Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah, combat the fat. Think about this. Combat right here, and fat is obvious, right? Combat, I didn't even have to think very far for fat because that's my whole thing is burning fat. So that's, but if you really want to get it right there, I came up with fat burning. So if you really want to do it, and all I did is I put fat combat, and then I used fat combat, and we ended up using combat the fat. I'll show you how this forms headlines in just a moment. Then this was really cool. This can not only be used for coming up with hooks, it can be used with coming up with names, brands. Vital trim system was used. This is how we came up with the vital trim system. How do we come up with that? Are you ready, guys? Do you see the word vital anywhere? Right here. Do you see the word trim? Right above it. All I did was put them together. So isn't that cool? This is a very simple exercise that you can do, and if you don't get something on the first try, just keep coming up with different words and it will happen for you. So I'll conclude by showing you how we turn this into headlines. It's a little bonus. So now, I start with the power word now, an immediate word now. You can flip the skinny switch on and quickly look and feel 10 years younger. Where did I get all of that? The only things I had to know about is what's called power words. I teach that a lot in Accelerator. Now, you, both power words, can, power word, flip the skinny switch on is an obvious statement coming from the skinny switch, and quickly, power word, look and feel 10 years younger. Boom, headline, done. Done. And it's a damn good headline. Do you see how this works?
Yeah, I love it. It's so easy.
Yeah, now it's combat the fat. Get the respect from others you deserve while trimming down your waistline. Respect from others, trimming down your waistline. Trim is up here right there. So it's very, very obvious once you see it done, right? The vital trim system, burn fat and regain your youthful attraction, all while you live free from disease. I just want to look and feel 10 years younger. All I did was change that to youthful attraction. So that is the power of systems to help you get to where you want to go. I call them formulas. People know me for the 3X VSL formula, the sales page formula, the hook formula, headline formula. This is where these formulas come from. And I hope that this was very helpful for you in getting your mind to think outside of a box that says I have to create something from total scratch, and inside of a box that says, you know what, I can actually do this. I can actually do this, and I don't need to be a genius copywriter or pay somebody. I can tell you what this is worth in the open market. It's worth like $50,000 to $100,000 for a copywriter to come up with a hook. So there you go. Now, hopefully that gave you $50,000 to $100,000 worth of value.
From the comments, I see that it has. So we are being watched on YouTube, on the website, on Google+. People are here in the Hangout. So we're going to open it up to the questions and answers, which is the really but a lot of very valuable part of the Hangout, because this was good information. So we'll start with Leila. Everybody here in the Hangout, if you have a question or a comment, let me know. Put that in the chat, and then we'll let you ask. If you don't, please drop out. Just close the window. You'll be out the Hangout, and I see a lot of people are trying to get in. So if you don't have a question, drop out. If you do, come into the Hangout. Leila, go for it.
Hi, Jon.
Hello.
This so far is amazing. Thank you very much. Our business is dog training, and we niche it down to dog behavior. So there are many, 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 many dog behaviors, but at the central core of fixing them is putting structure into your dog's life. And I have a very hard time figuring out how to work with that. I don't know. I struggle with it a lot.
How to find a hook for it, you mean, or how
to find a hook for it? I mean, I know that it's a very emotional topic for dog owners, especially women, because we have that special relationship with our dogs. And I think one of the things on the questions that you were talking about, let me turn my sheet over here. I'm not sure what their fears are, other than if it's dog aggression, like if it's house soiling or chewing stuff up. I can't figure out what a fear would be relative to that type of behavior.
Okay, so that's where you go to step one. You survey your list. You survey people. You get 20 dog owners together and say, what's your greatest fear? You don't have to figure out what their greatest fear is. You actually can ask them, and your customers or prospects will certainly tell you, just like you guys are going to tell me what your greatest fears are when it comes down to writing sales copy. It's because that's a conversation you really want to have. So you don't really have to think about that. Now, I want to ask you if you've seen any of my webinars on the 4 quadrants of desire, because ironically, I use a fictitious dog training book as an example.
No, but yeah, I hope someone will give me the links to that.
I will send you a link to that. It's a fantastic webinar that we did with Mike Philsame and Andy Jenkins, and I've done it with Evan, and I've done it with a few other people. But it's in Ryan Dice. So I use that because we have an adorable puppy that has now become a 60-pound puppy. He's like huge. And so we had the whole, peeing everywhere kind of thing, and then we had to go through dog training. So something I can completely relate to. So I decided to use that as an impetus to create something that would be fun to do. And when you watch how I did it, I think that one thing will probably, I wish I could tell everybody this. Yeah, go watch this one webinar and it will solve your problem. But I mean, I think it will. And it will definitely get you going. But the very first thing you do is ask people. Use those 3 steps. Just if you go through those 3 steps and ask those 3 questions, 90% of your work is done.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's a great idea, and I look forward to watching that.
Yeah. Well, be sure to send it to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
David Siebel, unmute.
David?
And guys, just so you know, the Hangout, people are dropping off, so if you have any other questions, just click the link below the video that says Join the Hangout, and you'll jump into the Hangout to talk to us. So, David?
Yep. Hi, Jon. How you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, I asked you, I actually was on the webinar, I guess, what was it, a week and a half ago or so, and asked you a question. I'm an investment advisor, and we're looking for, it's more trying to build client, get leads and things like that. So, been just doing an incredible amount of studying on the whole digital marketing thing, because one of the things I've found out, and it's amazing, is that all these people who say they're experts really don't know anything.
Yeah,
it's incredible. So what I've done is tried to find guys like you and Perry Marshall and Ryan Dice and the rest of them, because you guys are you're the experts. So I guess my question is we're trying to figure out where we really start. We've kind of done all this. I'm interested in looking at Accelerator. Just lost you there.
Sorry about that. We just muted.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But I guess it's just one of these things where it's so much. It's like where do you start? Where do you I like the video sales letters. They make sense to me. But it's like, how do you incorporate all this and really is there a blueprint?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The answer is yes. And the promise that I made to Yifat and to you guys is that. It's my natural tendency to be able to be a marketer and to say, yes, I have a complete, it is literally a blueprint. It is slide by slide, sentence by sentence. It does not get more easy or more specific than that. And that is Accelerator. But I basically want to say, you guys, put your wallets away. If you trust me at the end of this hangout, we'd love for you to come in and be a part of our family, and that's awesome. If you need something right now, I'm not going to say, oh, no, you just can't do it. I'm not Jeff Walker, for crying out loud. I'm going to love Jeff to death. No, you can't buy it. But so yeah, that is the best place to start. Is there. Even if you go to our homepage, you'll see Matthew Leitz is one of the guys that he's in finance as well, and they use that for lead capture and to close a sale on they close sales on webinars because they offer higher dollar products. So the sales copy stuff, and we're going to talk about that. I think it's day 4, if I'm not mistaken, maybe day 3. That we're going to talk about how you use sales copy in different formats, like for example a webinar. How would you use a video sales letter to gather leads versus selling a product, those kind of things. But it all starts with just putting that first step forward. Survey the list, do these 3 steps, make sure that you go through these 3 steps, and then do the hook formula. Just do that as an exercise. And then when you do get to Accelerator, when it starts off by saying, okay, what's your USP, you'll know what your USP is, because a unique selling proposition, because you've got it. You've got it right there. My USP is my book is the fat burning switch, for crying out loud. That's pretty good USP. That's a very short one too. But so that's what I would like to see you do, and then understand that it's the one step in front of the other, and that's the reason why, not to pat myself too much on the back here, but my team and I took a year and a lot of money, to be frank, and said we're going to develop software that actually walks people through the copywriting process. There's software out there for video sales letters right now that is, some of it's really crappy, some of it's really good for making, like, once you get your copy, you can throw it in there and it creates a PowerPoint file, essentially, like Easy VSL. Easy VSL is a beautiful tool, but it doesn't write copy, and the most important thing is the copy. So no one's been able to figure out how to teach that part of it, because how do you make that systematized? And that's what took a year and a half to figure out. So yeah, that's the best answer I have for you on that, because we've already done it, and I wish I had a better one. But that's the best one. But if you get started right now, you don't have to do anything other than just do that exercise, and then come back on the next few Hangouts, because we're going to be talking more about how to systematize stuff. Is that cool?
Yeah, no, that sounds like a plan. I just want to, we're just curious that we're going to be able to figure out how to get from, from where we are now all the way through a VSL, and how we're going to package all those together, and with the funnels and all the other stuff I'm learning about, and through Facebook and wherever else we're going to get it out. And at the end of the day, it's actually going to lead to something.
Yeah. Well, let me excuse me. Let me close that conversation just briefly by saying this. I will tell you flat out, the pros. I mean, we're talking about the top guys in the world. We will write a video sales letter that will bomb. So that's something that you probably aren't expecting me to say. Because wait, Accelerator is supposed to answer every question in the world. No, it's like everything. It's the best product out there for it, and it's still an 80-20 proposition, meaning that no matter what, if I put you if you're a golfer, I'm not a golfer, so I'm a football player, but okay, I'll use football because I like it better. I wasn't a quarterback, I was a tight end, but if you set me down with Rob Gronkowski from the New England Patriots, and you put me through his tight end coaching program, am I going to immediately go back to my college or high school or whatever and play ball like Rob Gronkowski? No. But do I have much more of a chance of doing it? Absolutely. In fact, I probably got an 80-20 chance of becoming a lot better, and that's what any good product or service can give you. So that's what we set out for Accelerator to do, and everything that I've done, by the way, is whether it be a diet book or whatever, it's based on that same principle. So just realize that we have to do this. We have to roll up our sleeves, go back to the drawing board, work at it again. And once I'm a big believer in work ethic. How many of you guys downloaded the free report? I have a whole section on working your ass off. You will never hear me say that I have a push button solution that after you go through this, you push a button and out comes $1 million. I know guys that say that stuff and they're just unethical scumbags. So what I'm going to tell you is that I've made copywriting as easy as it can possibly ever get, and it still takes work. It still takes effort to go through it. And if I lose sales by that, so be it. My sales page is brutal, man. We have a written sales page. I wanted to do it in writing because if I said it, I would sound like a total ass. But in writing, I can let your voice you can actually put your own voice in there. But I'm like, dude, if you're wanting this, you just need to go work at the post office. I hear they're still hiring. If you're not interested in putting work to it, and you sound like a guy that really is, so that's awesome. But just know that you have to have tools that you can turn to put effort into.
So that's great.
Thanks so much for your comment and your question. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
All right, you got it.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Cool. Thanks.
Hey, Julio, you have a question? Do you want to unmute? Yeah. Do you want to unmute? You have a question? So all the guys that are jumping in, anyone who has questions specifically to what we're talking about today about the sales hook, please jump into the Hangout. We have 10 more minutes on the clock. So if you're in the Hangout and you have any questions, just let me know. We're going to let you engage with John. So Julio?
Yep. 10 minutes, guys. Ask questions.
I've got a question.
Okay, go for it, Kevin.
My question is, John, how do you determine, obviously VSLs work very, very good, but how do you determine if you're going to use a VSL, and obviously we're starting to see people use landers. How do you distinguish between when you're going to use a lander and when you're going to use a VSL?
That's a great question. Okay, for those that don't know what a lander is, it's a page before a sales page. It can call a pre-sales page. I made the article lander page very popular a few years back when I wrote the sales letter. And this is not a video sales letter. It's a sales letter. Oh, God, no, not that. Yeah, I actually wrote a sales letter because I wanted to break free of the video sales letter thing for a while and see how well it did. And when we tested against the video sales letter in the future, the video sales letter is probably going to outperform it. But this sales page just became the #1 page in fitness, and it just took off in this particular category, not in all of fitness, but in this particular category. And that was an article that went to a sales page. So when do you determine that? Well, the obvious answer is testing, right? You really got to put testing forward. Testing is okay. No one should be too afraid of testing because it's not that difficult to do. You can hire a computer programmer, a coder on Elance or Odesk is where I like to go, and you can get guys that work to be honest with you, in the Philippines or in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, very inexpensively, and set up split tests so where you can say, I'm going to send half my traffic to an article page that goes into a video sales letter and half that doesn't. What our experience has been is, this is the answer to the question specifically. Our experience has been the more education the product or service needs, the more you need a lander, the more you need something before that video sales letter, or you need to have a really killer pattern interrupt and hook that hits them right off the bat in the video sales letter. Which that's what I used to lean toward, but it's a lot easier to write that article page to say, for example, for a lot of people that need to train their dogs, for example, like we were speaking to a while ago. They don't need to know that they need to train their dogs because their dog just peed all over their couch, right? But let's say that they don't know that I'm making this up, by the way, for dog lovers. I'm a dog lover. That most dogs get cancer before they're 3. Let's make that up. Thank goodness that's probably not the case. But most people, let's say that you didn't know that. Well, then it would be a really good idea to have like a landing page, like an article page before it. It says, hey, did you realize that most dogs get, and you have it like an article, and you could just say, hey, this magazine quotes this, and this expert says this, and this expert, and then you say at the very bottom, click to find out what to do about this and watch this free presentation. So it pre-sells the person with the largest idea that they need to come across, which is the education component of it. So if your product or service needs education, it's a good idea to write a little bit up front about it, and it's pretty easy to do. Just think of it as an article in a magazine, because that's really how it should feel. It should feel like an article in a magazine with a little button at the bottom that says, here's what I do next. And that works really, really well. So great question. Thank you. Hope that helped.
Yeah. How was that, Kevin?
Yeah, that worked. That worked great. One last question before I let you go. As far as conversion rates for a lander, is there a range for that?
It depends on the product and the price.
Yeah.
Conversion rates are not what I look at. I look at EPCs and even beyond that, like EPMs. So.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
Let me take a few questions from the comments because people are not jumping in, and those in here don't have questions. So first of all, guys, in order to get the report that we're talking about, just refresh the page. You're going to see 2 buttons that says Grab Day 1 Worksheet, and you can download that. John, people are saying, Barbara is saying, thank you. I love how you showed us the formula to finding headlines and titles. Very valuable information. Just need to go do it right now. Blessings.
Cool.
Jimmy is asking, the end of Harvard and student debt. Is that a good hook and a headline?
What was it again? What was it?
The end of Harvard and student debt.
Harvard is in the university?
Yeah.
Okay. The end of Harvard is probably is a really good hook. I mean, because but then again, if people are going to an Ivy League school or people who have gone to Harvard would certainly click on that. So if you're tying Harvard to student debt, there's a disconnect because the vast majority of people with student debt never went to Harvard. They never even went to a top 10 school, right? The vast majority went to average schools. So I would think along again, what is your prospect's greatest fear? Most student debt, I think, occurs from people that go to just your general state school, like Texas Tech or something. So I would focus on that whole the end of student debt, or again, what's their greatest fear? So I would think that if someone who is wrapped up in debt, their greatest fear is like never finding their way out of that debt. So so I would play around with those themes as well. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. Eli is asking about the hook. Are these 3 steps also applicable for selling your movie online? I would think so, right?
It's applicable for selling anything online. I mean, so so a lot of people have asked me, like, well, not a lot, but a few people have asked me, like, I'm a musician and I have a target audience, or in this case, I think if you're a filmmaker, I assume that's the case. Yeah. So the question is like, what's your greatest fear of going to see a movie? Probably isn't going to work. However, it's like the greatest, like, what does this movie title remind you of? I would ask questions like that, like whatever the title of the movie is. What does this make you think? If you went to see this movie, what would you want to see? What do you think is going, kind of get their feedback on what's going to happen. Then, of course, it's a movie, so you wouldn't want to probably go back and remake it, but you'd still get the feedback on people. But the cool thing is that I would do that before. I mean, I'd be honest, if your second movie, do that first. Make a movie people want to see. And you probably, I'm not saying that you didn't. I'm just saying that would be what I would do. I would make sure that people want to see it, unless it's an artistic endeavor. And then at that point, all bets are off. If it's solely for art and that's just an expression, then it doesn't really matter. Then I would just say, hey, here's my movie. Here's what it's about. Go check it out. Pretty simple.
Awesome. So we are actually right on time. Let's just tell people what do we have for them tomorrow, and then before that, guys, you probably noticed that we are gamifying the entire process, and it's not for naught. There's a really big prize at the end of this hangathon that we'll tell you tomorrow, because we want to entice you to show up again. But the more you share, the more you comment, and the more you watch our videos, the more points you get. And the prize for the best winner we'll share with you tomorrow. It's really awesome. So, Jon, just let them know, what are we going to be talking about tomorrow?
Well, that's going to be cool. Tomorrow is exciting. In fact, you know what? I don't know if we're switching day 2 or day 3. I don't know.
No, tomorrow it's sales copy strategy.
Yeah, I thought that was day 3, but you know what? That is day 2. So let me explain what I mean by that, and then we'll call it a day. Sales copy strategies for doing anything. So a lot of you guys listening may not have a product or a service yet, or you may have a product or service that you're having struggles with, and you just want to create like what's called a tripwire, a very low dollar product, which by the way is the best way to make your first dollar online. We're going to cover that specifically, I think, in day 3. I get these 2 days reversed. But when you use sales copy strategies to actually create your product, what you do is you reinforce the sale. Someone buys the book, and then it's like, believe it or not, a lot of people, marketers, say the selling process begins after the purchase is made. Now, I think that's carrying it to an extreme for a lot of things, but for for some products, that's absolutely true. You want to make sure that your customer feels completely smart, completely secure in that purchase, and while they're reading the book, you can implement the same sales copy strategies we use for what's called stick strategies to make sure people stick around after they purchase, and actually imprint even deeper the fact that, wow, this guy really gets me, or this girl really gets me. And that's really what you want to do. So if you write down one more thing, write this. Your most important job as a marketer, and when I say marketer, if you sell something online, congratulations, you're a marketer. The most important job as a marketer is to make your prospect feel completely understood. If you just take nothing else that I say over the next 9 days and you implement that one ideology into your noggin, it will change your pocketbook and the world as you know it. If you can make your customer, or prospect rather, feel completely understood, then they will be a customer of yours for life. Now, the thing is, how do you make your customer, the person that buys the product, feel completely understood? It's the same mechanisms. Yet a lot of people will just deliver a book that's just all static information, or a service that's just kind of static, and it loses the feel of a killer sales page, and refunds go up. So when you do this, your refunds go way down, people are much happier, and you get that viral effect of people spreading things everywhere. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Is that exciting? Is that cool?
That's, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So guys, thank you so much for showing up. Again, we're going to have exactly the same format tomorrow. We're going to allow you guys into the hangout. And
when you watch how I did it, I think that one thing will probably help you tell everybody.
So we're going to let you guys into the hangout a little earlier tomorrow. Hold on a second.
Google.
There we go. So show up here about 10 minutes earlier so you can get into the hangout. Make sure you're going to have questions, and we are going to give you the worksheet before the hangout starts so that you can have your questions ready. If you have any questions about what we talked about today or about tomorrow's topic, leave them in the comment for tomorrow, and we'll get to all of them. So thank you, Jon, so much. I'm excited about the next 9 days,
Yeah.
and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for all the guys on my list for attending this thing. And a lot of you guys don't know Google Plus. I don't know Google Plus. Really want to say thank you for attending and checking it out. And hopefully you got a lot out of this. So I can't wait to hang with you for the next 9 days. We're going to have some big announcements coming up on day 6. I mean, like really, really, really big announcements. So definitely stay tuned.
Stick around.